Have you ever felt like time betrayed you? Like you were stuck in a moment that had already happened, again and again? For most of us, déjà vu lasts just a few seconds, an eerie ripple in our mind. But for one man, it became a prison. Case 1. Trapped in Time. The Endless Loop of Alex. Alex was just a regular 23-year-old university student from the United Kingdom. Intelligent, ambitious, and full of potential. He studied literature, loved indie music, and had a small but close circle of friends. Life was moving forward. Until one winter, in 2007, Alex caught a bad case of the flu. Nothing unusual, just the kind of fever and chills you'd expect during a cold British December. His doctor prescribed him a standard antiviral medication, amantadine, commonly used to treat flu symptoms. He took the pills, drank tea, slept. But something strange began to stir in his mind. At first, it was subtle. Alex started experiencing déjà vu more often. Once or twice a day. He brushed it off. Who hasn't felt like they've heard a sentence before? Or walked down a hallway and known what was around the corner? But within a week, it got worse. Much worse. Alex began feeling like entire conversations, entire days, were repeating. It wasn't just moments, it was everything. He'd go to class and feel like the lecture had already happened. He'd eat lunch, and know exactly what everyone around him was going to say, right before they said it. His friends noticed something was off. He became distracted, quiet, withdrawn. When they tried to joke around or start a conversation, Alex would shake his head and mutter, "We've had this talk already. Yesterday. You asked me this exact question?" But no one had. Things spiraled quickly. Alex stopped watching TV or listening to music. He said every song felt like a repeat, even if it had just been released. Movies felt like reruns of dreams. He couldn't read books anymore, because, in his words, "I've already read them in a version of time that no one else remembers." He started refusing to leave his room. When his professors asked why he hadn't submitted any assignments, he simply replied, "What's the point? I already submitted them in a timeline that nobody else remembers." That's when his family took him to a neurologist. They feared he was having seizures or a mental breakdown. Brain scans showed no tumors, no bleeding, no stroke. Physically, his brain looked normal. But during cognitive testing, something unusual happened. When shown a series of images and short video clips, ones he had never seen before, Alex claimed he had seen them all before. Not just once, but over and over. Doctors diagnosed him with an extremely rare condition known as persistent déjà vu. Unlike ordinary déjà vu, which lasts for seconds, Alex was stuck in a chronic state of recognition. His brain was misfiring memory signals, constantly interpreting the present as something remembered. It's like his internal system for time and memory had short-circuited. Some neurologists suspected that the medication, amantadine, may have triggered the episode, especially if combined with stress or an unknown underlying condition. Others believed it may have uncovered a hidden neurological vulnerability. Either way, there was no off switch. Alex later described the experience as being trapped inside a looping film, where every frame looked familiar, but none of it made sense. "It's like living the same dream," he said. "But knowing it's real, and knowing no one else believes you." His life fell apart. He dropped out of university. Lost contact with friends. Refused to watch or read anything new. Therapy helped reduce his anxiety, but the déjà vu never stopped. One of the psychiatrists treating him said, quote, "This wasn't just a mental health issue. It was like reality itself had turned against him." Some researchers now use Alex's case in medical journals as one of the most extreme and documented forms of non-epileptic persistent déjà vu. To this day, his case remains unsolved. Unexplained. A terrifying reminder that our brains, so powerful, so precise, can sometimes twist the fabric of time itself. For Alex, déjà vu wasn't a harmless flicker. It was a curse. A trap. A life repeating, without end. Case 2. The woman who saw her husband's death, before it happened. How do you explain déjà vu when it predicts the future? What if that eerie sense of familiarity isn't just a glitch, but a warning? This is the real story of a woman who saw her husband's death before it happened. And no one believed her until it was too late. It was a cold October evening in 1991 when Sarah M., a 34-year-old nurse from a quiet town in Ohio, experienced the most disturbing déjà vu of her life. She and her husband, Mark, had spent the day visiting friends outside the city. As they drove back home, light rain started tapping against the windshield. The trees lining the narrow highway blurred under the drizzle, and the scent of wet asphalt filled the car. Mark hummed softly to a Bruce Springsteen song playing low on the radio. The wipers swished back and forth like a slow metronome. Then Sarah froze. Her hand, resting on the center console, clenched into a fist. "Mark, we've been here before." Her voice was low, almost trembling. "This road. This exact moment. I've seen it already." Mark glanced at her and chuckled. "Yeah, we've driven this road 100 times. "No," Sarah replied. "I don't mean like that. I've seen this exact moment before, in a dream." "You said that. The rain. The music. The trees. It was all the same." Mark brushed it off. He loved his wife, but she'd always had vivid dreams. Maybe a little too vivid. She often wrote them down in a leather-bound journal by her bedside, pages filled with surreal imagery and cryptic notes. But this one? This dream had haunted her for weeks. In it, they were on this very road, and something leapt into their path. A shadow. An animal. The car swerved. She felt the spinning. The glass shattering. The scream. In the dream, Sarah survived. Mark didn't. Reality caught up. Just minutes after she whispered those words, it happened. A deer darted out from the trees, its eyes reflecting the headlights. Mark reacted instinctively. He yanked the wheel to the right. The car skidded across the wet road, flipped once, and slammed into a tree. It was over in seconds. When Sarah regained consciousness in the hospital, her head wrapped in gauze, she asked only one question. "Is he gone?" The nurses didn't answer. They didn't have to. Mark had died on impact. Then came the twist. A few days after the funeral, Sarah's sister helped her clean up the house. While putting away some books, she found Sarah's dream journal. She opened it to a page dated 2 weeks before the accident. And there it was. Driving down Highway 45. Rain. Mark humming to the radio. Trees melting into fog. "I feel something bad. A deer. The car flips. I survive. He doesn't." The date. The scene. The details. All of it, written before the crash. When Sarah saw her own handwriting, she collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Theories abound. Some doctors argued it was coincidence. A self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe she dreamt about a generic car accident and filled in the blanks afterward. But others weren't so sure. Her therapist, Dr. Keener, publicly stated, "This wasn't just déjà vu. This was precognition. And the fact that she recorded it in writing before it happened makes it one of the most unsettling cases I've ever encountered." To this day, Sarah believes that the déjà vu she felt in the car wasn't a memory, but a warning. "I wasn't remembering," she later said. "I was being reminded." Life after the crash. Sarah never remarried. She refused to drive again. Even as a passenger, she would often flinch at the smallest movement on the road. She still dreams. And still writes. But now, her dreams terrify her. Because sometimes, she sees events she prays will never come true. She no longer calls them dreams. She calls them previews. When déjà vu crosses the line from memory to prophecy, we're left with a terrifying question. What if the past and future are closer than we think? Case 3. The teen trapped in an endless loop, diagnosed with persistent déjà vu disorder. Imagine waking up each day and feeling like you've already lived it. Every conversation, every face, every moment, it all feels like a rerun of a dream you can't escape. This is the true story of a teenage boy whose mind betrayed him, and left him stuck in an infinite loop of déjà vu. In the summer of 2012, a 16-year-old boy named Louis, from a small town in southern France, began to lose his grip on reality. It started slowly. At first, Louis would pause mid-conversation and say something odd. "Didn't we already talk about this yesterday?" His classmates thought he was joking. But within a few weeks, it wasn't funny anymore. Louis began experiencing déjà vu constantly, not once a week, or even once a day, but several times an hour. He would walk into a room, see someone's face, hear a sentence, and insist that he had lived the moment already. He started predicting outcomes of things he shouldn't possibly know. He'd cover his ears when teachers assigned reading homework, because he claimed he'd already read it. He refused to eat certain meals, claiming he had eaten them earlier that day, though he hadn't. To others, Louis seemed confused. But inside his mind, he was terrified. The illusion deepens. Louis's sense of time began to distort. Days bled into each other. He couldn't distinguish between something that had happened and something that he only felt had happened. Even dreams felt like memories. And reality? It felt like a loop. His teachers noticed a sharp decline in his grades. His parents thought he was making excuses to avoid school. Until the hallucinations began. Louis would scream in the middle of class, claiming he had just seen that exact scene, same students, same weather, same words. He started refusing to go outside. "What's the point?" he said. "Everything's just going to repeat itself." His mother finally took him to a neurologist in Marseille. At first, doctors suspected he might be suffering from stress, depression, or possibly a mild psychotic break. But a battery of tests revealed something else. The diagnosis: persistent déjà vu disorder. After extensive EEGs, brain scans, and interviews, specialists discovered that Louis had temporal lobe dysfunction, a condition that affects the part of the brain responsible for memory and emotion. In simple terms, his brain was misprocessing new information as if it were old. He wasn't reliving the past, he was mistaking the present for something he believed he had already lived. It wasn't a memory issue. His memory was fine. The problem was perception. Doctors called it a rare form of non-epileptic temporal lobe activity, similar in presentation to what occurs during certain seizures, but without the seizures. One neurologist described it as a memory system stuck on repeat. His brain recognizes every moment as familiar, whether it is or not. Life in a broken timeline. Imagine living in a world where everything feels like a copy. Louis stopped reading books, because he claimed to have already read every page, even if he hadn't opened the book yet. He quit watching movies. Couldn't listen to music. Every song felt recycled. He avoided mirrors. Claimed they showed him a version of himself he had already seen, and didn't trust. His relationships began to dissolve. Friends didn't know how to talk to him. Teachers dismissed him. And his parents, though supportive, were helpless. Therapists tried grounding techniques. Medication. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Some methods helped ease his anxiety, but none of them could stop the endless déjà vu. Scientific curiosity, human suffering. Louis's case soon caught the attention of researchers from around the world. Medical journals began citing his story as an extreme case of persistent déjà vu disorder. It proved one disturbing truth: déjà vu isn't always a passing sensation. Sometimes, it can become a permanent glitch, a cruel trick of the brain that turns daily life into a maze of false familiarity. As of the last known update, Louis is alive, now in his late 20s, and undergoing long-term treatment. He has learned to live with his condition, but still reports that nothing ever feels new. For Louis, the world isn't a place of discovery. It's a rerun. A prison of familiarity, where every door has already been opened, and every road already walked. Case 4. The nun who experienced déjà vu from the afterlife. Most think déjà vu comes from the brain. A glitch. A hiccup in memory. But what if it's something more? What if déjà vu isn't just a trick of the mind, but a glimpse into what lies beyond death? This is the real story of a nun, who claimed she had been there before, because she had already died. The year was 1979. Deep in the hills of central Mexico stood a quiet convent known as Santa Madre del Silencio, the Holy Mother of Silence. There, a devout 57-year-old nun known as Sister Agnes lived in solitude. She had spent most of her life in service, teaching orphaned children, caring for the sick, and keeping prayer vigil long into the night. By all accounts, she was healthy, humble, and spiritually at peace. Until one evening in September, during evening prayers, something happened. She collapsed. Her fellow sisters rushed to her side. She wasn't breathing. Her lips turned pale. Her eyes fixed into the distance. The local doctor arrived 20 minutes later and declared what everyone feared: cardiac arrest. No pulse. No breathing. Dead. For 42 seconds, Sister Agnes was clinically gone. And then, without explanation, she came back. The first words she spoke. As her eyes fluttered open, she began to cry. Not out of fear or pain, but with awe. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "I've been here before, all of this. I already saw it." At first, the other nuns thought she was delirious. But Sister Agnes insisted. Everything around her, every word spoken, every moment, was exactly as she remembered it. Not from a dream. Not from memory. But from where she had just come from. She called it the memory of God. Over the next few days, Sister Agnes shared what she saw during those 42 seconds. She described a place beyond time. A realm where every moment in her life, past, present, and future, existed simultaneously. Not like a movie or a dream, but like being immersed in pure knowledge. She said she knew what the doctor would say before he entered the room. She knew the prayer the sisters whispered as they held her hand. She even told one of the nurses exactly where she would be standing, days before she moved there. It was as if she had stepped outside of time itself, and returned with echoes of the future already imprinted on her soul. Her fellow sisters were shaken. Some believed it was a divine experience. Others were frightened. The church's response. Word of Sister Agnes's experience reached the bishop. A formal inquiry was quietly conducted. Doctors were called. Psychologists. Even theologians. The medical report confirmed she had no lasting brain damage. No stroke. No seizure. Her heart had stopped. And then restarted, on its own. One neurologist suggested temporal lobe hyperactivity from a near-death experience. But others couldn't explain how she predicted so many exact moments, conversations, weather patterns, even a power outage in the convent days later. All of which she claimed to have seen during her death. Déjà vu from the other side? Sister Agnes believed her experience was a gift and a curse. Déjà vu, she said, is a trace. A memory from the other side. From where we all came, and where we will all return. She claimed that déjà vu wasn't a malfunction of the mind, but the soul remembering something it had already lived beyond the limits of human time. To her, it wasn't scary. It was sacred. But after her experience, she changed. She spoke less. Prayed more. Avoided mirrors. She once confessed to another nun that her reflection now felt foreign. Years later, shortly before her actual passing, she wrote in her journal, "Death is not the end. It is a return to a place we forgot. A place so familiar we only remember it when we feel déjà vu." The record was buried. The convent never spoke publicly about Sister Agnes again. The journal vanished after her death. Official records list her passing as peaceful, quiet, and unremarkable. But a former nurse, now in her 70s, later shared parts of the story in a private forum for hospice workers. When asked why she came forward after all these years, she said, "Because I saw the look in her eyes when she came back. It wasn't fear. It wasn't confusion. It was the look of someone who remembered. And I've never seen anything like it again." For Sister Agnes, déjà vu wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a seizure. It wasn't a dream. It was a whisper from the beyond, a soft echo of eternity, reminding us that maybe we've been here before.